who knows what the perception or the reality is between Travis Kelce and Aaron Rodgers. This is a funny, spicy little subplot. Rodgers isn't playing. He's got the torn Achilles tendon. He's trying to rehab, but he still does the Pat McAfee show every Tuesday. Last week, he had the kind of snide, derisive remark about Travis Kelce being Mr. Pfizer. And even though he said it jokingly, it was still clear there was an edge to it, that Rodgers has something that he believes strongly as it relates to vaccines, specifically the COVID vaccine. So Kelce had some fun in responding last week. He made a comment about Vax Wars. He made a comment about Aaron Rodgers working for Johnson & Johnson because Woody Johnson is a Johnson & Johnson heir. He's the owner of the Jets. It came up again this past Tuesday, and a couple of things that stood out. Number one, Rodgers wants to debate Kelce. And who knows? Maybe he was joking, but if Kelce says, I'll do it, Rodgers is stuck. What's he going to say? I didn't mean it. Rodgers wants to have RFK Jr., who is very strong in the anti-vax conspiracy theory movement. He wants to have RFK as his second, and he told McAfee that Kelce can have Tony Fauci or some other pharmacrat. I mean, there really is a component of Rodgers' comments that is strong anti-vaccine. And some would say anti-vaccine means anti-science because these things have been developed with the idea of trying to maximize the well-being of a populace while minimizing the extent to which certain diseases will wreak havoc on those people. Regardless, it's clear that Rodgers has an issue with Kelce and his shilling for Pfizer. And at one point, Rodgers called Pfizer a corrupt company. He said potentially corrupt, and he laughed a little bit, and he wasn't going to do it, and then he said corrupt. I tracked down an email for the media relations department of Pfizer. I'd like a comment. Aaron Rodgers says you're a corrupt company. What do you have to say in response? Isn't that the responsible thing to do as a journalist? What do you say in response? He says you're corrupt. What do you say to him? And, you know, there's a deeper issue here, too. And I respect the fact that Pat McAfee has secured the ability to say and do whatever he wants, cover whatever he wants. That was a non-starter for me with NBC back in 2009. But when Rodgers deviates into this anti-vax stuff and calls Pfizer a corrupt company, I don't know what kind of ad relationship Pfizer has with ESPN, but if there is one, there might not be. After Pfizer catches wind of a prominent guest on a prominent show calling Pfizer a corrupt company. I mean, you can be somebody who doesn't believe in vaccines for yourself, but that doesn't make the companies that make the vaccines corrupt. And if it does, you're getting money from a guy whose fortune came from a pharmaceutical company. You know, he finally had that issue presented to him yesterday, and I like the way that Pat brought it up, kind of jokingly, but it was there, and he finally had to address it. And he said, well, I don't work for Johnson & Johnson. I work for Woody Johnson. I work for the Jets. Right, but the guy who owns the team got the team because he's an heir to a big pharma monolith, one of the big three. One of the big three that Rodgers has said on McAfee's show he believes is trying to cajole sports media into vilifying him. He said that back in January of this year. Moderna, Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson. They want people like me to say bad things about him because he's anti-vaccine. Now, if that's the case, they aren't paying me nearly enough because they're paying me $0.00 to state my opinions. But that's where it is. And he is getting paid by Johnson & Johnson money. And he did call Pfizer a corrupt company. So it'll be interesting to see if Pfizer has anything to say. I sent the email this morning. I have yet to get a response. We'll see if that happens. And boy, I'd love to witness a debate between Travis Kelce, Aaron Rodgers, and whoever they bring to be their seconds, whether it's on the New Heights podcast, whether it's on McAfee's show. That would be great. And it would be awesome if Kelce says, yeah, I accept Mr. Johnson & Johnson's challenge to have this debate. Maybe Travis Kelce's second should be Woody Johnson or the CEO of Johnson & Johnson. Maybe that's who the second should be. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.